Yes, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another Headlines. It's Tuesday, April 19th, and we've got a lot to get to. If you're somebody out there who thinks that Joe Biden is still marginally competent, if you think that, maybe he can exist and run the country, even though he's a little bit elderly and, a little bit slower than he was before, he is still somebody who has his faculties. If you're in that camp, that's okay. Today probably won't be after we go through some of the evidence that came out yesterday from the White House education event. You see here, RNC research was all over this. We've got several clips, several different angles. We'll break down exactly what happened because apparently there was an undercover agent in one of these bunny suits whose task was to keep Joe Biden away from getting himself into trouble. So we'll take a look at this secretive Easter bunny, maybe friends with Tazi and Ali. They're the fake DHS agents. I don't know. We'll find out who it was. We know who it is. But here we can see Joe Biden is out there with his wife delivering a message. And, something pretty easy to do after you're concluding a speech. If you're the president, if you're somebody who's been in office for 37, 47, 107 years, I don't know. He's been doing this forever. And so he's supposed to get up there. Hi, I'm a politician. Oh, hey, yeah. Do your stupid wave. Here, he can't even remember that. Jill Biden has to remind him. And when she does, he's barely even capable of performing the wave. Let's listen.
Elon, thank you and happy Easter. All right.
Wait.
Welcome to the South Lawn. All right.
Wait.
He gives one wave, puts his hand down. Everybody else is waving over there. So Jill Biden is having to just even encourage him to do the basic mechanics, literal mechanics of addressing America. Now, this is just one incident, and you might say, well, Rob, it's Jill Biden. I guess that's what she's there to do, is help him remember those things. I don't know. But here we can see it's not the only incident that took place yesterday. There was another angle of this one. And here you can see that Joe Biden is talking with some people out there on the White House lawn. And very conveniently, somebody comes up there and interrupts him. Why? He's going to start talking about foreign policy, Afghanistan. And nobody wants him to say anything about anything not related to basically anything. You can see here, the Easter bunny comes up and plays interference, blocks Joe Biden from talking to the press. Let's watch this one.
Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should be people.
Oh, the Easter bunny, Afghanistan. Uh-oh. Now look at this. Joe is even a little bit shocked. Like, what the heck is this creature doing? Look at that look on his face. He does not look like... He looks actually startled there. Legitimately startled. That's not okay, man. That is not okay at all. And then he finally catches himself and says, oh, yeah, I've got to go. I mean, that looks really let's watch this. I think he's actually, if you look at that face, look right there. I think that's actual horror before he realizes what's going on. So he got startled, and then now he has to be redirected away from the crowd. Now, you might be somebody who's watching this and you say, Rob, come on now. This is not reasonable. This bunny was just sort of walking the ropes, glad handing the crowd. Hey, I'm an Easter bunny. I'm having a lot of fun with everybody, and I'm just going to happen to, play interference and go block Joe Biden. And she, this bunny is just sort of, walking their way down the line. Well, we'll see here. Not really the case. The bunny was not really anywhere near Joe Biden when we go over to this angle. You see here, the Easter bunny comes out of nowhere, literally, and just, nothing's over here. Joe Biden's coming up, going to say something about Afghanistan, and the bunny just gets the play call. It's like, blitz, go. Here, you can see. All right, we're done. We're done now. Yeah, you're done. What on earth is that? He's still confused. Now where do I go? I don't know. I don't know what that was. So just jumps in there and then waves like this. Still confused. Wow. So that's our president. Now, it's because he was going to start talking and running his mouth about Afghanistan or maybe Ukraine or maybe Putin, who knows? And there was going to be, a catastrophic consequence for the White House. There's been several of those as a result of his loose lips. But what's happening here is he's being redirected by what? Just a regular Easter bunny? Just somebody in a costume? Is that a Secret Service agent? Who is that person who has the audacity to go up to the president and say, you don't get to talk right now. You're done. Get out of here. And Joe Biden's so confused that that person has to wave, hey, you're done. I've already said you're done. Get out of here. So it's a strange, strange thing happening to somebody who's supposed to be very competent, very powerful, very capable of making decisions about whether he wants to talk about an issue or not. Apparently he doesn't have those faculties. But who was this person behind the Easter Bunny mask? Well, we can take a look here. Doesn't look like it's just any old random person. We found this over on Twitter, and this person is posting a image here from Washington, D.C., Twitter for iPhone, 8:46 a.m., April 18th, the day of the education event at the White House. And this person says, hopping on a Zoom call. Do you see what they did there? Hopping like a little bunny. Hop, 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 hop. Through the merry forest or wherever they bounce around. Here, you can see this person is not just any old person. This happens to be Angela Perez, the White House press assistant. Followed by Ron Clay and Jen Psaki and 17 others. So what does this mean? Well, they can't have Angela Perez out there with her press credentials, White House credentials as the press assistant going around to Joe Biden with an electrical cattle prod and saying, hey, Zit, get out of here. What are you doing? You can't talk to the president. You can't do that. They can't. That wouldn't look good because people like me would be here saying, look, they're literally cattle prodding the president now. But they didn't have to do that, fortunately, because there was a holiday. Remember, Joe Biden was missing in action over at Camp David, didn't even publish his schedule or his calendar on Friday. And then we just saw very light schedules on Thursday and then Saturday and then Sunday. And then Monday he comes back. He gets the press briefing, in the afternoon after he goes out and has to be told what to wave and where to go. All of that is taking place. Joe Biden is just missing in action. Angela Perez has the convenient excuse of having Easter. And so the brilliant geniuses there at the White House, they say, oh my gosh, I've got a great idea for this. Just put on an Easter bunny suit. I go, oh, yeah. How many people do you think we could have running around in Easter bunny suits? And then you'll notice there's a couple of them up there on the White House balcony. You got two of them just in case Joe Biden decides to do something there. He starts going to his right. Easter bunny on the right's like, hey, Mr. President here, get back over there to the podium. You're the president. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So very, very conveniently placed, even almost, padded animals so he doesn't hurt himself. So that's what's going on. Now, Angela Perez and, the White House, they're going to say something like, well, this is just the press assistant who's just saying, hey, Joe, we're done talking now. It's time for the next event. It's the president. And he's very busy, apparently, even though there's no activity on his schedule most of the time. Let's take a look at that, shall we? And apparently there was another bunny. You can see Megan Hayes here posted this. She's the director of message planning at the White House, and she's got a picture as well. So she also put on an Easter bunny suit just to make sure that the president is within bounds. Make sure he doesn't go just wandering off into Ukraine or something. You can see that this is going to be something that is probably a continued theme throughout the rest of this administration. We'll see what other holidays they have. We have Christmas is not until a ways away. We'll probably have this woman and Angela dressing up as Kris Kringle, bouncing around there, delivering presents to the White House or to the president. I don't know. It's an interesting time, folks. The big question, of course, is who is in charge if Joe Biden is not really in charge? We see things like he signs a bunch of documents, and we see on his calendar today that he's going to be doing a bunch of stuff and giving a bunch of speeches. But what is going on? Who is he? Is he drafting these? Is he doing any of the work, or is he just going and just literally just moving him from one location to the other and just having him just say what's next? Very strange times. Meghan McCain, formerly with The View, also chimed in on this, says the absolute distrust and disrespect our president's staff has for him and his capabilities to lead and speak in public is disgraceful. And it's like, no, it's not really, right? They have no other choice. The man's not competent. He's not capable of talking. Shame on his team. Shame on them. Well, what's the alternative? I mean, he should resign, right? Or be impeached for his incapability, right? 25th Amendment should be invoked so that he doesn't continue to be president. What else is his team supposed to do? I mean, Joe Biden's the president, and if he says, I'm capable, I'm competent, and he's going out there and he's literally falling apart at the seams, what's his team supposed to do here? Why are they treating him like this? What kind of question is this? It's because he's not competent. Meghan McCain is still on the presumption that he is a competent person who knows what he's doing and that he's got the wherewithal to have these conversations and make these decisions, even though time and again we've seen evidence showing the other version of this, showing differently, because all this does is alarm the American public watching this. Well, she got that one right. So several sentences there, a little bit askew, but got that one right at the end there. Yeah, it does alarm the American public. A lot of people are asking, what the heck is going on? How can the president have a facial feature like this when there's a bunny who is in front of his face and he's got much bigger problems around the world? But it's I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, look at that face. It's actually shocking to me how shocked the president is. In more Biden administration news, we see they take another L. Finally, the courts have come out and said that the mandates imposed by this administration for masks while traveling, not constitutional. Did a full video on that, went through all 59 pages of that order, I believe, relatively quickly, 30-minute video that I published yesterday. So if you want to see the details on that, feel free to go check that video out. But you can see a lot of reaction on this. Drudge is making note saying, what a nice smile you have that millions of faces are now freed. Federal judge in Florida ruled on Monday. CDC overstepped its authority. Obviously, they basically, the justification for this, to synthesize everything, is the CDC, by imposing this, didn't go through the proper process. There's a requirement that they go through notice and public comment sessions so that the public can have input over the regulations that are going to be imposed on their lives. CDC didn't do that when Joe Biden took over, just said, well, you know, it's the pandemic and we've got a lot of emergencies to attend to. And if we wait, that's going to be, you know, killing more grandmas out there. And we can't allow that to happen. The court said, well, you had a long time to have public notice and comment. There were all sorts of other things you could have done in your justification for using that exception. You said, well, it's one sentence is all that we need to explain to you there. And the judge said, that's not required. That's not how this works. You need to do a lot more than that. You need to really justify this because we have checks and balances in this country. You don't just get to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And so the judge found that was unconstitutional. And there were some pretty interesting things happening as a result. And so I saw this on Twitter immediately thereafter. This coming over from Ben Dietrich on Twitter says, ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot speaking. This is the most important announcement I've ever made. The federal mask mandate is over. Take off your mask if you choose. He's referencing this, saying a wonderful moment on an Alaskan Air flight. You can see 4:07 p.m. at April 18th, 2022. And you can see it's just a beautiful sight to behold. Let's listen.
Congratulations. It's over immediately. Congratulations.
Masks coming off. Millions of faces freed. So a good moment there. Here's another one from Election Wizard at Election Wiz on Twitter. It says, passengers applaud as the Delta flight crew announces masks are optional, effective immediately.
On our Delta hub, it says masks now optional for employees, customers, following the White House.
Good news. Faces freed. You can see there were several of them all over the place. Southwest Airgate excited to tell everyone that they officially dropped the mask mandate. Another one, happy couple posting photos. We've got Let's Go Southwest Air flight attendants collecting masks for ceremonial trashing in flight. Meanwhile, many on the left very unhappy about the masks coming off. You can see Breitbart has a collection for us, says such a massive mistake. Radical left freaks after a judge strikes down mask mandates on planes. We've got several different clips here. Scott Nevins on Twitter says this is such a massive mistake. Meanwhile, there's a surge going on. Another one from Amir Khalifa says, I'm telling you, nothing wrong with a union of 49 states, referencing Florida, saying that Florida was overturning the mandate and saying basically, you know, the rest of us sophisticated people will just form our own union, according to Amir. Here's D. Funk says, the mask mandate for travel on planes and other forms of public transportation remains in effect indefinitely for me personally, which is correct. That's the right answer. Yeah, wet mask up. Do whatever you want with your face. Nobody cares. Have fun. Put 3 of them on for all we care. But the point is that it's not mandatory for other people to do things that, you know, maybe they're not in favor of. You see here, Jeff Bennett says the judge behind this mask ruling, throwing shade on the judge, Catherine Kimball Mazzelli, says, was the 10th Trump judicial nominee to be rated not qualified. So you see how this goes. Man, that's pretty sexist in my opinion. Who is this guy? Jeff Bennett? It's not very equitable in my opinion. We have Governor Ron DeSantis says that Press Secretary Christina Pushaw responded to Democrats, said this was good news. Democrats were no longer able to force others to wear masks. Good news, liberals. You can still wear masks on a plane if you want. Others, Representative Jim Banks says, finally, long overdue. Ron DeSantis, very happy about this. Mike Glenn says, I wouldn't think the White House would be dumb enough to seek an appeal of the federal judge's ban. They would be wise to just let it go. And that's a very good point. Yesterday on my video, I was thinking, oh, they're going to appeal this because they have been going gung-ho over, all of the protocols and mandates for a long time. But then I sort of was thinking about that after the video, and I was thinking, but they've got an election coming up, and the country has largely, sort of moved on from a lot of these restrictions and mandates, and you're seeing that the Democrats are getting sort of killed in the polls, and they are going to have to change their messaging, which is why a lot of the messaging has sort of been not about COVID anymore. It's been about Ukraine and all other sorts of problems that they're, sort of shoving down our gullets. So here we can see, yeah, maybe they'll just kind of let this one ride for a little bit until November comes and goes, and then we'll see where they go from here. Now, look, just because this judge, threw this out doesn't mean that mask mandates are something that are, permanently enjoined, like they can never come back again. The judge basically was just unhappy with how they imposed it. In other words, if they did it correctly, like if they passed the rule, they opened this up for notice and public comment, and they sort of, listened to everybody and followed the actual procedures under the APA, well, then I think the judge would not really have an argument. She'd say, okay, well, you did everything right, and what can I do about this, right? Because it's the legislative process, and the judge has only certain checks and balances that she can use in this case to push back on an encroachment. But if they do things correctly and they have the power to do that and they go through the right mechanisms, there's only so much the judge can do. So these people, are sort of who are complaining about this, you should just do it right. And this is the whole concern, which is why they don't want to do it right, because they don't want public comment and notice. They don't want you to have an opinion on this because they already know what your opinion is and they don't want to hear it. We see Rep. Dan Bishop, another one with a comment. We've got Tom Fitton says that Biden shut this down. He's over from Justice Watch. So a lot of positive reaction, a lot of negative reaction, depending on what side of the aisle you are on this. But faces are freed on airplanes, according to the judge. We'll see how it continues to go. Good Supreme Court news. Judge Thomas is back on the bench. Judge Clarence Thomas was not well for a little while, but he came back and he took the bench yesterday, I believe. It was Monday, back after a serious illness, was out of public view for some time. Conservative jurist appeared in person for oral arguments on several cases. He's 73. He had flu-like symptoms, treated for an infection with intravenous antibiotics. And the court said that he did not have the vid and was just discharged later that week. Returned to public limelight on April 8th, posed for photos, but now he's back on the bench. His absence coincided with the left screaming about his wife. She was, involved with some text messages with the chief of staff from the White House, Mark Meadows. Clarence Thomas is the only judge to dissent from a recent 8-1 ruling, which is not unusual. Justice Thomas has often been the lone dissenter, but they're unhappy with him. They want to get rid of him. They want to get rid of his wife. They want him impeached. They want him gone because they need right now another judge. They're very unhappy with what happened with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Amy Coney Barrett, in their opinion, is sort of illegitimate because it's a conservative woman replacing a liberal woman, and that's kind of not fair for them. So they want payback. They want Judge Thomas to go so that they can put their own person in while they still have the Senate, while they still have the votes, because they know that that is not going to be long, that this is probably going to be changing here relatively quickly, and they're going to lose their opportunity now to impact the actual future of the court. Let's go over to locals. We can see Three Girlies is in the house sharing us a story from the military.com website. Says, towing company illegally auctioned troops' cars, including a deployed Navy SEALs vehicle. Justice Department alleges. Towing company, that's not good. In Virginia, went, auctioned, sold, trashed the personal belongings of at least 7 U.S. service members, including 2 cars owned by Navy SEALs, according to the Justice Department lawsuit filed on April 15th. You can see the press release over from the Justice Department says, yeah, they filed this. 2 vehicles, member of a Navy SEAL team, flagrant disregard for the law. There's supposed to be notice and things before you just start doing that stuff. Lawsuit is well underway. You can see the complaint is actually here. We can take a quick look at this. Kind of curious as to what happened. You know, what are the facts? Team 2, Joint Expeditionary Base in Little Creek Fort, Virginia Beach. Prior to deploying, he parked his car, both of whom had Arizona, shout out, license plates and registration, in a parking lot intersection of Helicopter and Cove Roads. Stored inside the team member's Land Cruiser was evidence of his military service uniform and all of that. Prior to his deployment, forwarded his mail to his home address in Arizona, shout out to the SEAL team member, active duty for a long time, since 2013. On January 3rd, defendant Steve's in big trouble right now, towed the SEAL team member's Land Cruiser and 4Runner from a parking lot across from SEAL Team 2's headquarters at Jeb Little Creek. Well, who called Steve? Defendant Steve Towing requested and received records from the Virginia DMV, and other SEAL team members stated no automated record was found for either vehicle. So the Virginia didn't have any registration for them or something. At no time before or after did Steve's Towing make any effort to contact Arizona. Yeah, that's the problem there. Contacted Virginia, but as he referenced here, the plates were Arizona plates, and so he didn't check with Arizona. Now, sometimes what happens is states are part of what's called an interstate compact. I actually know quite a bit about this, meaning they communicate with each other. And so sometimes if you ping one DMV or MVD, basically it's sort of like a translation language that exists where it'll say, oh, your statute is, 13, 37, 55, whatever B, and we'll just sort of translate that 13 over to a 28, which is our traffic code in Arizona. And so it kind of translates like a Google Translate all the different statutes in the United States from a number of different states. Now, some states don't, necessarily comport with the interstate compact. Some states don't communicate very well with each other, or they only communicate in one direction. In other words, they'll notify the system, but they won't receive information from outside the system. And so it's complicated. There are 50 states, obviously a lot of different statutes and rules. And so we have a whole book, actually, it's online now, but it gives us details about how all this works. And so we go, we've got somebody from New Hampshire, open up New Hampshire. How do they do things? And so it is kind of complicated, but a towing company should have this figured out pretty obviously, especially if somebody's Land Cruiser is sitting there and it's got Arizona license plates. I mean, it's all registered. Of course, Virginia may not know about it, but Arizona might. Didn't try to contact Arizona. On or about February 7th, filed 2 mechanics liens and then ended up ditching the vehicles. Let's see, enforced storage liens, $500 each. Yeah, so this is kind of bad behavior. So basically what this guy was doing is just trying to find an excuse to, allegedly, according to this complaint, they're saying that he was trying to, sort of take these vehicles and justify trashing them so that he could get paid and sort of convert them into money for himself. So what are they asking for here? This is coming over from the Justice Department. Civil penalties. They don't give us a monetary number here, but they'll go through it. Interesting share. That was over from 3 Girlies. So thank you for that, 3 Girlies. We got Joey Bandolero with Pepe is in the house, along with some other Pepe memes. We see Grouchy Old Cat Lady says, "Grr, the Dems are out for blood." Oh, wait, I already knew that. And Grouchy Old Cat Lady was sharing this article over from Ground News. Got a screenshot from her. Ground News is a great website, actually, because it does this. It sort of shows you the bias distribution on some of these articles. And I've checked this website out before. Here you can see that it will sort of, if you pick an article, let's pick the article that we shared here. It'll tell you what stories are covering it. Okay, so it's sort of blacked out on the right, but a lot of the stories are appearing on left-leaning sources. And this is the lawsuit challenging Marjorie Taylor Greene's re-election can proceed. So, of course, the left's kind of happy about that. The right's probably not so happy about that. And so they're not going to post that because it's probably not going to get a bunch of clicks. But on the left, it will. All the lefties will say, oh, yeah, perfect. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she should not be allowed to be in Congress. Why they just say that, Well, the voters can decide that. Oh, no. This is too dangerous for the voters to decide. So we have to sue and stop her from being on the ballot. So we'll have to see where that goes. I'm not familiar with the lawsuit or what the underlying, allegation is, but we'll see. There are these types of things that happen probably every election cycle. Marjorie Taylor Greene just happens to be somebody who is high profile because of the stances she takes. And so she is, of course, going to be a target. Back over on locals, another one from Grouchy Old Cat Lady. from Ground News says Biden and Harris gave less to charity than others earning similar income. Of course they did. They don't want to give their money away. They want to give your money away. Hunter Biden's too busy pocketing it in his bags that he's carrying for Joe Biden. So this is, of course, over here on the right. Now everybody's going to be talking about this one on the right. Nobody on the left wants to reference that one, of course, because it makes them look bad. And so here is some more headlines. Tax returns revealed. Second couple donated less than half to charity compared to high earners in other categories. Biden's reported $610,000 in income last year. Yeah, well, I wonder what Hunter and James and some other family members, what their reported income was. Going to guess it's a lot more than that. So we can see how this is all working. Another good article from Grouchy Old Cat Lady. We have Vientika sharing, says, ask and ye shall receive. And he shared this YouTube channel over here called Welcome to Survivor Skills Primitive, which has a lot of subscribers. And yesterday on the headlines, I was talking about some of these videos where it's, people out sort of in nature, just surviving off the land, building structures and in sort of engaging with the world around them. And sometimes I'll just put them on like these ones, 48 minutes, I'll just kind of put it on in the background and just like let it go. And you just look over there and you go, well, there was nothing there. And now there's a little house that you just assembled. It's pretty amazing. So I like to watch these. I think that they're kind of peaceful and kind of relaxing. So thanks for sharing that, Vientikis. Another one from Joey Bandolero with some, some interesting shares. Grouchy Old Cat Lady sharing this one from, what is this?
Today,
Cleveland judge is accused of more than 100 counts. A Cleveland judge accused of more than 100 counts of misconduct blames menopause. Well, it's a new defense. I haven't heard of that one yet, but maybe that's a good one. We'll see how this works out for her, and maybe we can incorporate that into our defenses. Don't think it's going to work out. Another one from Three Girlies says, not really following the Depp versus Heard lawsuit, but saw this. I wanted your take on the idea that Amber Heard made a misrepresentation to the court, has her girlfriend live tweeting in court. So I have not followed it at all, to be honest. I know that a lot of the other lawyers on YouTube are, covering it pretty in depth. And so I don't really have a thought on it. I guess if that photograph is showing something that they shouldn't be doing, if in other words, like there was a prohibition on using technology or tweeting or any of those things, and that is showing that they were doing that, yeah, that would be a problem, right? The judge, I'm not sure that the judge is going to do anything too consequential. For things like this, the judge is not going to say, well, you lose the case. But the judge might give him a nice little scolding, and if the judge has already, let's say historically in this case, given a couple reprimands for this, or if this is like the third warning, and then there may be some serious sanctions or some consequences for that. But generally, it's stuff that the judge just corrects, admonishes everybody for, maybe admonishes counsel and leaves it at that. But whether it goes further than that, and again, I'm commenting, I haven't watched any of this or know what you're talking about, but the idea that she's committing fraud because she's live tweeting in court, maybe with a prohibition, a judge would be unhappy about it, but I'm not sure it'd be much more consequential than that. But maybe I'll poke around on that a little bit later. We've got Grouchy Old Cat Lady says, let the fun begin. Apollo Global is considering participating in a bid for Twitter, raising Elon Musk's bid opportunity. And I've seen a lot of this. I've seen several different angles for Elon to try to get past the Twitter poison pill, which would be a lot of fun if that was successful. Another one, Pepe meme for Joey Bandolero says, yes, you are all wrong because most of that group looks to be like NPCs. Speech Unleashed here talking about the Easter Bunny, saying the Easter Bunny had to recuse Biden from incoherently mumbling. And we covered this one earlier. Says, let's see here. Talking to little kids, yeah, says there must have been a Biden aide in the bunny suit. It's right, there was. You nailed it. Speech Unleashed nailed it. Yeah, it is exactly right. She was the press assistant for the White House. Just outstanding. Another one from Three Girlies and John M16. We've got New York challenging, or the Supreme Court declining New York challenge to the federal cap on state and local tax deductions. That's interesting. And John M16 says, Florida judge rules the mask mandate is void. So we're about caught up. Another one from Mr. MVP there. Very good news on the day. Let's take a look over on YouTube and see what some of those comments look like. Just a couple comments from supporters, and thank you for your support on YouTube as well. You can see Deborah Yunkers here says, Elon Musk has 1,000 lawsuits going right now. And I don't doubt that at all. You know, he's been sued many, many times. He sort of scoffs at them at this point. I actually listened to his full interview on his TED Talk on the official TED channel on YouTube. And it was really, really good. You know, he's somebody who is, regardless of what you think of the guy, he inspires the hell out of me. It's really amazing to think about how he thinks and how he just lays it all out. And I just don't know that there's anybody else quite like him right now. And the fact that there is so much pressure pushing against this Twitter acquisition, I think is indicative of the legitimacy behind it. And it feels a lot like the same pressure that we saw in other sequences, in other seasons that we've gone through, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's pandemic, and on and on and on we go. That same pressure, it feels to me, is sort of building because the status quo feels like it's under threat. And the fact that, you know, a guy like Elon with basically has, you know, an unlimited amount of money relative to most other people, is behind it is a very interesting development. Now, there is some criticism about Elon. There are people who are saying, wait a minute, Rob, don't think this is all out of the goodness of his heart, like this is a free speech thing. There are people who are saying that Elon is just trying to use this as an excuse to liquidate a bunch of Tesla stock because he thinks it's overbought. You know, he thinks it's priced too high, in other words. He would love an excuse to take $43 billion of Tesla shares, liquidate that so that he doesn't crash the Tesla stock by doing that. People who own Tesla would say, why is he liquidating $43 billion? There's no reason for him to do that. Does he think that this is oversold or that this is something that is going to come crashing down soon and it might cause a catastrophe for the other shareholders who own Tesla? But if he is able to find an excuse to say, well, we're just going to kind of take this $43 billion and just move it over here because I believe in free speech, might be a very nice way for him to exit. And a lot of people are speculating that that may be, you know, an ulterior motive. And I think the two things can be true at once. You know, I've always said you can do well while doing good. And if that's a smart play for him and it brings more freedom of speech to internet and Twitter and the public square, okay, good for him, right? It's his money. He can do what he wants with it. The consequence of this is that the status quo, the old establishment, the Twitter guard, they're going to rally around and they're going to, you know, sort of creating these two distinct camps that are fighting over this platform. Closely related to this is a post from Jeff Bezos. He doesn't post all that much on Twitter, but he said this piece by Jonathan Haidt is thoughtful, beautifully written, and important. It's very worth a long read. And I'm not through it all the way yet. I skimmed through it earlier, and it is basically identifying social media as the problem with what's going on in the world. Jonathan Haidt is somebody I've talked about and referenced on this show. I do think he's a very, very powerful writer. I've recommended his books, his analogy, the idea that he sort of, one analogy that sticks from him is the idea that we are sort of like riders on an elephant. This is the analogy between our conscious mind and our subconscious. Our conscious mind is the rider on an elephant. Our subconscious mind is the elephant. There's only so much you can do to control that elephant. And so you've got to get very, very in tune with how your elephant works as the rider in order to be a good rider of the elephant. So very, very profound guy, very profound thinker. And he wrote this very long article. You can see it's a long one, 53 minutes if you want to listen to the whole thing. So it's kind of like a short book. But I did skim through some of it this morning, and he's making this very interesting analogy, this comparison between the Tower of Babel and what's happening now in our modern society. Referencing that story, people were existing and then suddenly they became confused. Everybody was unable to speak and communicate, and society started to segment and bifurcate in many different ways, and that caused a massive collapse. Same argument goes with social media. He's basically saying all of this happened because of social media. Historically, we've relied on good communications between people with sort of a shared layer of trust in our institutions. That's all being eroded because people are creating these little social media bubbles where they exist within them, and they're sort of elevating the most vitriolic conversations and minimizing anything that provides trust or reliance on the old institutions. And he's saying that, that is going to cause this continued bifurcation where people are living in their own worlds. So I haven't gotten far enough yet to see if he's proposing a solution. I'd encourage you to go check it out. It is over at The Atlantic. I think it's probably behind a paywall, but I'm going to end up reading it, so maybe we'll summarize that later. But another related comment there. And then our final comment from YouTube comes from Bull Gator Team 3, says NATO appears to want and provoke a war with Russia. Ukraine, not NATO, as the fodder. Sad and expensive for all. As I recall, Newland and Biden team overthrew the 2014 Ukraine election that voted for the Russians. Look, a lot of history there. Russia, Ukraine. I'm not sure that I believe anything that comes out of this administration's mouth about supporting our NATO allies or what the real justification for this is. Yes, I'm sure that they all are concerned about the Ukrainian people and the horrors and the tragedies that are taking place there. I think everybody is. Nobody wants war, in my opinion, except probably the neocons and many Democrats who, for some reason, are screaming about war. And so that, my friends, is it for the headlines on the day. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today to take a look at all this craziness going on. I would love it if you subscribed before you got out of here. If you enjoyed the show and you thought that maybe somebody else that you know or love might enjoy it as well, would really appreciate it if you shared it as well. We're going to be back here tomorrow with another set of them, so I look forward to seeing you there.